In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. By the Sacred Heart of Jesus, and the Immaculate Heart of Mary, one with Louisa, the little daughter of the divine will, I enter into the holy divine will. Come, divine will, come beat in my every heartbeat. Come breathe in my every breath. Come pray, adore, and reign in me. In the name of everyone and everything, past, present, and future. In, with, through, and for Jesus, Mary, and Louisa. In, with, and for all, that all may be for the glory of God and the good of all souls, giving to God as if all lived in the most holy divine will, united with creation, redemption, and sanctification, praying as one in that one eternal act, for the kingdom to come, reign on earth. Fiat.
Okay. So we are on volume 18, 10-10-25. Is that right? Oops, sorry. We're on volume 18, 10-10-25. Let's see. To Mary, the Celestial Mama. I place my I love you between your mouth and that of Jesus while you kiss, so that my little I love you may run within everything you do. And Mary said to me, my daughter Louisa, please do, take your little place, take your little I love you, not only in the mouth, but in all the acts that pass between Jesus, me and my son Jesus. So here we see that Our Lady wants us to do everything that she has done, to give to Jesus all the I love yous that Mary gives. Now, when you think about this, it seems like it's an impossibility. Yet, God does not want us to be separated from Him in any manner. He wants to totally reign in us. He wants us to totally be possessed by Him. So He wants us to participate. And so all that we do is we say, Fiat, I don't know how this is going to be done, but let it be done as you say. Volume 19, 6-6-26. I love you, Jesus, and on all your childhood acts. So again, when you're meditating on Christ, you can be with Jesus and see what He is doing. Repair, redo in the name of everyone and everything. Let fuse yourself with Jesus so that you can do everything with, in, through, and for Him. Volume 31, 3-5-33. And I want to place my I love you over each flower of Jesus that you picked so that it would change into a voice. Okay, because we want God to hear the I love you with our voice. Speaking flowers that would ask that His will would be known and loved. So again, Jesus said to Adam, I could have put voices on anything and everything. But in fact, what I did was I gave you a voice so that you would speak in the name of everyone and everything, the I love you. So we're only doing what God originally wanted Adam to do. We're giving our I love you with our voice. And so when I pray, Lord Jesus, in the name of every human, hear every human with my voice. I love you. I praise you. I thank you. I bless you. I adore you. I worship you. So what God is hearing is He's hearing everyone in the whole universe who has ever lived and whoever will live say to Him, I love you. But it's with our voice. And again, it's an explosion of I love yous that are coming upon the earth. This is the great call that God has given to us. We want everything to change into an I love you for God. Volume 19, 66. I said that. In volume 19, 6626. Wait a minute. I just said that. I come to sustain your little arms to dry your tears to take place, and I love you that upon that ground against which your little knees were leaning, so as not to be so hard for you. Okay, so we see Jesus as a little boy kneeling on the ground, and he says, I want to sustain you. I want to dry your tears. I want to place an I love you upon the ground so that your knees might not hurt your knees. See, we want to be with Jesus. We want to help Jesus as this little boy that he was, when he was in Egypt, when he was in Nazareth. We want to be there with him. Volume 19, 6626. I kiss your tears and impress my I love you on each tear. I give you the lullaby of my I love you to close your sleep and to open your vigil. Volume 23, 2928. I continue to follow the acts of Jesus done in his divine will when he was on earth. And I was following mother and son when they fled to Egypt. Jesus, my love, I want to follow step by step in the steps of my celestial mother. And as she walks, I want to animate, the blades of grass, the atoms of the earth, to make you feel my I love you under her soles. I want to animate all the light of the sun as it shines on your face. I want to bring to you my I love you, all the waves of the wind as it caresses. And let's all say to you, I love you. See, we want to be that breeze. We want to be that sun. We want to be that grass that he walks on, saying to him, I love you, I love you, I love you. I am the one who, in your fiat, brings you the warmth of the sun to warm you, the waves of the wind to caress you, the whistling to speak to you and say, dear little one, let everyone know your divine will. Let it come out from within your little humanity, that it may take its dominion and form its kingdom in the midst of souls. So we want this kingdom to be established. See, this is our job. And as we focus on this gift, as we read the volumes, as we read the book of heaven, what happens is we begin to fulfill the mission that God gave us before time existed. See, the Lord knew who was going to be alive at this time. He knew who was going to read the writings, and he knew it wasn't going to be Moses. It wasn't going to be Elijah. It wasn't going to be St. Francis. It wasn't going to be St. Clare. It was us. He knew this. So why are we alive today? Because we have the greatest mission, and that is to bring the kingdom of God on earth as it is in heaven. So again, our docility, our surrender, our submission to the Lord is necessary. And again, no one in your family is going to want this. Your neighbors aren't going to want this. Your co-workers aren't going to want this. Even your parishioners are not going to want this, because they have other things that are more important to them. This is for the souls who want what God wants. And really, they give up everything so that the kingdom can be established. Volume 24, 9-28. After this, I continued my act in the redemption, and pausing when my charming baby Jesus was in Egypt with my celestial mother, while rocking him in his poor cradle, was occupied with preparing the garment for the little baby. Placing myself near the Queen Mama, I made my I love you flow in the thread that was used for the little garment of Jesus. And I rocked the cradle to make my celestial baby sleep, making my lullabies of love for him and asking him for the divine fiat. See, everything that we think, say, and do is for the glory of God, the salvation of souls. We want the kingdom to be established. Everything that we think, say, and do. This is what Jesus and Mary are going to train us to do through Louisa. When we give our fiat, it's not for me. I'm nobody. But it's for the glory of God, salvation of souls. We want to say, may your kingdom come, may your will be done. May everyone live in your kingdom. May everybody know your kingdom. To see the role that God has given us. Volume 29, 7-31. While I was praying my round in the divine will to follow its acts, I arrived at the point in which the celestial baby was in Egypt and the celestial mama rocking him. and tried to make him fall asleep, but at the same time she was occupied with the maternal hands and the making of the little garment for the divine infant. And I united myself with his mama, made my I love you to flow between her fingers in the thread that was flowing, so as to make and weave the little garment together with my I love you. And upon the foot of the queen that was swinging the cradle, I put my own, so that I too might rock Jesus and do for him what his mama was doing. See, God wants to share with us everything that Our Lady has done. Not to be separated from Jesus or Mary in any way. To rock the cradle with our foot, as Our Lady did. To sew the garments that she made, as Our Lady did. To put the fiat between her fingers as she was making this garment. See, it's to enter into this life of Jesus and Mary. To begin to live a life that the saints could only dream about. And they only could dream about it because they did not have Louisa. This is Louisa's gift. It didn't even dawn on them that they could do this. But now Jesus is saying, this is what I'm calling you to do. Volume 35, 110, 37. I was praying the round in the divine fiat, and oh, how I yearned that no act might escape me. And all that it has done, both in creation and redemption. And I feel that I lack something if I don't recognize all that the divine will did, loving the divine will, kissing the divine will, squeezing the divine will into my heart as if it were mine. The divine volition would remain displeased if one who lives in the divine will did not know all of its acts, and it couldn't find even the little I love you from its beloved one. In everything the divine will did, there is nothing that the divine will did not do for us, for each creature, for this creature, Louisa. So again, it's to be intimate with God, intimate with Our Lady. It's not just to know about these things, but to possess them, to do what Jesus and Mary had done, to participate in their life. This is the true life of Jesus and the true life of Mary that the divine will wants to give us. So therefore, our focus is on Jesus and Mary. So the three reflections of the Holy Trinity in man, our intellect, memory, and will, we want to use our intellect with the mind of Christ. We don't want our human intellect anymore. It's limited. We want the mind of Christ. We want to be focused with Jesus' thoughts. Our memory is not about what people said about us, what people have done to us, but the memory of Jesus. So our memory has to change. And then when we use our intellect to focus on the mind of Christ, our memory to be focused on Jesus, what he thought, said, and did, then we can surrender our human will to let the divine will reign in us. So the three powers, our intellect, memory, and will, have been given to us by God, but they've been corrupted with the fall of Adam. And so for the last 2,000 years, we've learned how to discipline ourselves, how to focus on prayer, how to try to be good, to be faithful, to be obedient. And now Jesus says, now I want to give you everything. I want to give you the gift of gifts, the prodigy of prodigies. I want you to think with my thinking. Use my intellect. Understand things from Christ's perspective, not from a human perspective anymore. I want you to be in memory of me, of God. Now, don't think about yourself anymore. You're nothing. And thirdly, I want you to surrender your human will so that the divine will can reign in you. See, these three powers are very, very important, and the devil doesn't want us to have those. So the devil corrupts our memory, our intellect, and our will. And what we have to do is we have to focus on this to surrender it back to God. So Jesus says, the divine volition would be displeased if the one who lives in it did not know all the acts and couldn't find its little I love you from its beloved one and everything it did. There is nothing the divine will did not do for us. God has done everything for us. So I arrived to follow the point when the celestial baby was in Egypt, and in taking his first steps, I kissed his steps. I placed my I love you in every step Jesus took. And I asked Jesus for the first steps of his divine will for all human generations. And I tried to follow Jesus in everything. If Jesus prayed, if Jesus cried, I asked that his divine will might animate all the prayers of all the souls, and that his tears might regenerate the life of his fiat in the whole human family. See, God wants to bring us back to our origin. Our origin is to be one with God, fused with God, never to be separated from God in the least. 5:24, 7:29, 28. I sought help from all, so that they would make Jesus come back to me. But he would not come, and I would continue my round at his adorable will, divine will, in following all the acts he did when he was on this earth. And I paused when Jesus was blessing the children, blessing the celestial mother, blessing the crowds and other things. And I prayed Jesus to bless this little daughter of his who so much needed it. So again, when you're with Jesus, be with Jesus on when he was on the Sermon on the Mount. Be with Jesus. Listen to him. Sit right there with everybody on the hill, listening to Jesus. This is not pious thought. It is a reality. There's no time or space with the divine will. And again, don't limit God to say, well, I can't do this and I won't. It's just fiat. Lord, bring me where you want to bring me. Let me experience your life while you were on earth. Let me live at that time when you were here. Let me follow you. Let me touch the tassel of your cloak to heal me. See, in Leviticus, the tillet that the Jews wear, the corners were called, they're called hems. And in Leviticus it says that the Messiah will heal by his hem. He will heal mankind by his hem. And that's why when that woman who was suffering for bleeding for 18 years touched his hem, and Jesus turned around and said, "Who touched me?" Because he knew at that point someone believed that he was the Messiah and that he could heal by his hem. And so Jesus turned around, "Who did this?" And the woman confessed, and he goes, "By your faith in me as the Messiah, you are healed." So now you could be right there with Jesus in the same way, touching at the tassel of his hem. The sacred scripture is here for us to enter into that time with Jesus. There's no reason why you can't be there. This is we who so much need him to heal us. Volume 29, 5:31-31. After this, I continue my acts of the divine fiat, and my poor mind paused in the little house of Nazareth, where the Queen of Heaven, the celestial King Jesus, the Saint Joseph, were in possession of and lived in the kingdom of the divine will. See, Jesus and Mary possessed it, and Joseph lived in it. He because of being the foster father of Jesus, he was given the great grace to live with Jesus and Mary, who possessed it. He did not possess it because he was not the newborn. See, the newborn possessed it, but he was in the presence of Jesus and Mary. Some people don't recognize that the greatest person born of woman was not Saint Joseph. The greatest person born of woman was Saint John the Baptist. And then Jesus says, but the least in the kingdom, the littlest in the kingdom, that's Louisa, is greater than he. So God has got a whole new order that's coming, a whole new manifestation of his power that he's going to show us. And we have to be ready for what's coming. It's going to be glorious. Volume 23, 3:11-28. I arrived at the home of Nazareth, which my beloved Jesus had conducted his hidden life in order to follow his acts. And I was saying to him, my love, there is no act you do in which my I love you does not follow you, to ask you by means of your acts for the kingdom of your divine will. So why are we doing this? It's to ask for the kingdom of the divine will to manifest itself on earth. Why are we doing this? It's not to be holy and to be good and to be saintly, but to beg God that the kingdom reign on earth as it is in heaven, the fulfillment of the Our Father. So as we learn this, as we really begin to beg God, and God says, you really want this? He says, I have to find the souls that want this, and then I will give it to them. So we really have to want this, that your kingdom of your divine will be known and loved. My I love you follows you everywhere in the steps you take and the words you speak and the wood you hammered. And while you hammered the wood, you hammer the human will that it may be undone, and that your holy divine will may rise again in the midst of souls. My I love you flows in the water you drink and the food you take and the air you breathe, the rivers of love that pass between you and your mother and St. Joseph, in the prayers you do, in your ardent heartbeats, in the sleep you take. Oh, how I wish to be near you, Jesus, to whisper in your ear, I love you, I love you, I love you. Oh, please let your kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. See, we have to fall in love with Jesus more today than yesterday, more tomorrow than today. That's why we spend time before the Blessed Sacrament, to fall in love with Jesus. Again, there's no other reason to be there. I mean, why waste your time? It's to fall in love with Jesus. Volume 22, 9/8/27. I was following the holy divine will in the acts in which my sweet Jesus separated from Mary, the sovereign queen, to go into the desert, compassionating both Mary and Jesus. See, it's to be with Jesus and Mary and the sorrow that they went through. It's to, tell them. We thank them, we praise them, we glorify them, we console them for all the suffering that they went through for us. I mean, we really have to enter into this life of Jesus and Mary. Volume 24, 6/25/28. I was continuing around in the divine Fiat, following my Jesus on the way to the desert. And again, these are little clips to see that what the divine will is to be with Jesus, to be with Mary, to walk into the desert with Jesus. To sit by his side. Volume 24, 8/23/28. And then I continued my round of the Fiat, and while I accompanied my loved Jesus in his life down here, I felt pity for him when I reached to those points in which he was all alone, not even with Our Lady, his celestial mother, like in the desert in the nights of his public life, like when withdrawing from everyone, he would almost remain outside of built-up areas alone, praying and even crying for our salvation. And I said to myself, my Jesus, your little daughter does not have the heart to leave you alone. See, we don't want to leave Jesus alone. I want to place myself near you, and if I can do nothing else, I will whisper in your ear, I love you, I love you, I love you. See, this is why we're alive for all eternity. To fall in love with God, even in the beatific vision, to be in love with God. And we have to begin that here. That's why those who can say to Jesus, I love you, I love you, I love you, you begin to live heaven on earth. You forget everything else around you. You forget all the misery that's around you. And you fall deeper and deeper into love with Jesus. For the sake of your loneliness, prayers, and tears, give me the kingdom of your divine will. Hurry. See how the world is falling. Your divine will shall place it in safety. Everything's falling apart. Everything is falling apart. And our job is to restore the kingdom. That's why we're here, to bring the kingdom of God on earth as it is in heaven. So we have to see how bad it is, but not to be oppressed by the sadness around us, but to be filled with confidence, going to Jesus, telling him how much we love him, so that the kingdom can be here. It can be established. Volume 29, 2/15/31. Then I continued my abandonment in the divine Fiat, and unable to do anything else, I kept saying my little I love you in the divine acts. So again, to pray, I love you, I love you, I love you, is so necessary for us. This is why we were created. He says, Louisa says, not only this, but I was saying to myself, my Jesus, my love, may my I love you flow in your heartbeat. May I love you flow in your breath. May I love you flow in your tongue. May my I love you flow in your voice. May my I love you flow even as little as particles of your adorable person. But while I was doing this, my dear life, Jesus, made himself seen, and he made me place my I love you in his sacred heart, inside and out of his whole divine person. And he enjoyed this I love you so much that he incited me to repeat as many I love yous as I could, so as to be able to find the well-liked I love you in his whole being. So like I said, if all you can say at the Blessed Sacrament is I love you, say it over and over and over and over until you fall in love with Jesus. And then the next day, you have to fall more in love with Jesus. And then the next day, you have to fall more in love with Jesus. It's never the same. And the only person that can stop you is yourself. So it's not just to go to the Blessed Sacrament and read a book. It's not to go in front of the Blessed Sacrament and pray your holy prayers. When you're in front of the exposition of the Blessed Sacrament, you are to fall in love with Jesus. How do you do it? By falling in love with Jesus. It's up to you. Nobody can force you to fall in love with Jesus. So it takes time, and it takes a love that is deep within you to manifest itself. And then what happens is your whole life changes. Your whole attitude changes. There's no more worry, no more fear, no more anxiety, no more complaints, no more negativity. It's all love. It's heaven. Heaven is all love. And we're called to enter into this life. And God wants nothing less than heaven on earth, heaven in our heart, love reigning in us. But again, nobody can teach you. Nobody can force you. You have to do this yourself, the way God has created you to fall in love. And that is just by saying to Jesus, looking at him in the monstrance, and saying, I love you, I love you, I love you. You have to fall in love with God. Again, there's only one person that can stop you, and that's yourself. And there's no formulas. It's you do it or you don't. And so therefore, you have to spend time with Jesus. You have to be focused on Jesus. You have to follow him through Our Lady's eyes. You have to fall in love with Jesus as Louisa fell in love with Jesus. Yeah, again, it's very, very important. God has great, great plans. But if we don't fall in love with him, he cannot bring about the complete transmutation that he has planned for us. Volume 34, 5, 6, 37. In passing to the acts of redemption, I found myself immersed in his sufferings. And my always love of Jesus, perhaps to convince me, made himself seen in my interior in the act of suffering the sorrowful crucifixion. So again, Jesus says, well, again, John the Baptist says, look, there is the Lamb of God. So we look at Jesus in the Eucharist, but we also look at Christ crucified. That's why Mel Gibson's The Passion of the Christ is so important for us. God wants us to see what he did for us. See, remember, I don't know if you read recently, this one man went to hell, and the Lord showed him hell for him was to be crucified eternally. That's what hell is going to be, being crucified in the pit. But Jesus took our place. He freed us from that eternal death. He suffered the crucifixion for each and every one of us. And we have to see Jesus crucified. Remember, Paul says, I preach a Christ crucified. We should have a crucifix on the outside of our house, on the inside of our house. We should have a crucifix in every room. Because Jesus crucified is the power of God, the love of God. And without Christ crucified, there is no redemption. And so this is why Jesus wants us to see him crucified. I took part of his sufferings, and I died together with Jesus. His divine blood flowed, his wounds were open. See, our job is to be crucified with Christ. Our Lady brings us to Calvary to die. Okay, so what does that mean? It means that we are no longer going to give life to our human will. So the consequences of dying in the divine will is this: peace, joy, and happiness. See, this crucifixion is we are never to give life to our human will anymore. That's why, come divine will, come breathe in my breathing. Come divine will, come beat in my heart beating. Come divine will, come walk in my walking. Come divine will, come drive in my driving. We don't want it. This is to crucify ourselves with Christ. Never to give life to our human will anymore. So, again, the consequences is peace, joy, and happiness. If you're worried, fearful, anxious, complaining, and negative, you haven't crucified your life. You haven't gone up to Golgotha and died on the cross with Jesus. Again, the crucifixion is the power and glory of God. And why Louisa wants to do this? Because she doesn't want to give life to her human will. She wants to die to her human will so that the divine will can reign in us. So Jesus and Mary and Louisa have gone through all the suffering. What we do is we cooperate with this grace. And we want to be crucified with Christ so that our human will never have life again. When people read Volume 1, they usually throw Volume 1 away and say, I don't want the divine will if this is what I have to go through. But that was Louisa. That's what God did to Louisa. He crushed her. He crucified her over and over and over again. He reformed her to be the little newborn. She is the mother of the second generation of the children of light, which means that she has gone through all the suffering. Jesus and Mary have gone on through all the suffering. And now we can live this life because, hey, you get a hangnail, you get a sliver, you're wailing and grinding your teeth. They've gone through all the suffering. Our job is to say, Fiat, I want to crucify myself with Christ so that it is no longer my life, but Christ living in me. It says very clearly, and he, with a tender and moving accent, as to feel my heart burst, told me, I am within you, Louisa. I am yours. I am at your disposition. God has done it all. See, he has great things for us. He wants us to be in his image and likeness. So he has done everything. All we have to do is cooperate. My wounds, my blood, and all my suffering are yours. You, Louisa, can do with me what you want. Rather, do it as magnanimous and as brave, as lover, as my true imitator. Take my blood in order to give it to whomever you want. Take my wounds in order to heal the wounds of sinners. Take my life in order to give the life of grace, the life of sanctity, the life of love, the life of the divine will to all souls. Who is the one that gives the divine will? It is Louisa. It is her gift. She is the first human since Adam to possess it. Jesus possessed it as being the Son of God. Mary possessed it as being the Mother of God. But the first human since Adam is Louisa. That's why I'm saying there's some beautiful prayers out there, beautiful books out there, but they're not the divine will. God is asking us to embrace this gift, to live this gift as Louisa lived it. Jesus says, take my death in order to make many souls dead in sin and then rise again. See, this is glorious what God is doing. He's done it through Louisa. I have given myself, and I, Jesus, give you, Louisa, all the freedoms to do it. Know how to be my daughter. I have given myself, and that is enough. So God has got it all planned. God has got it all ready. And he asks us to die on the cross with him. Why? So that we can live peaceful, joyful, happy lives. What is dead on the cross is our human misery. No more worry, no more fear, no more anxiety, no more complaints, no more negativity. That has to die. That has to be crucified with Jesus. What is given is the resurrection, peace, joy, and happiness. So again, the consequences of the divine will is to live heaven on earth. When you hear this and you become afraid, it's because you're not understanding what Jesus, Mary, and Louisa have done for you. As he says, I have done this. Louisa, I give this to you so that you can free the souls. Louisa, I give this to you so that people can have the kingdom. Louisa, I give this to you so that everybody can receive this divine life. It's really glorious. I have given myself, and that is enough. Do you think of making everything redound to my glory and of how to make me loved? My divine will shall give you, Louisa, the flight in order to make you bring my blood, my wounds, my kisses, my maternal tendernesses to all my children and to your brothers and sisters. Therefore, do not marvel. This is truly the divine operation, to keep its works in the act of repeating them continuously in order to give them so as to make of them a gift to all my children. Each one can say, everything is mine, even God himself is mine, and oh, how we try and God enjoy in seeing these gifts, them being gifted with our works, our possessions of their Creator. These are the excesses of our love, that in order to be loved, we want to make touched how much we love them and the gifts that we want to give them. Then for one who lives in our volition, if we do not make a gift of everything to them, we feel as if we would defraud the soul. And this we do not know how to do. Therefore, be attentive. Let your soul be embalmed by our divine peace, because we do not know what disturbance is. In all things will embrace you with the smiles and the sweetness and the love of your Creator God. So he shows us right there, I can't not give this to you. I must give this to you. And then he says, by possessing it, you will have the smile of God, the sweetness of God, the love of God, the life of God, the love of God flowing within you. See, it's nothing to be afraid of. It's to receive everything. See, Jesus says, I've waited for the best to give the best at the last moments. Now remember, 2,000 years ago, St. Paul says we are in the last times. John Paul II, in 1999, says get ready for the end times. In 1978, he said the same thing. We are in the last times. We are in the last times of the last times. We have to understand what's going on. Soon, time is coming to an end. And wherever we are spiritually, that's where we stay eternally. That's why Our Lady says you have to change. You have to turn away from your sins. Okay, so how do we do that? Jesus is giving us the solution to live in the divine will. To give up our human misery. To have it crucified on the cross with him. So that his life can reign in us. Then continuing to follow the Acts of my beloved Jesus, volume 23, 11 to 627. I stopped when he, Jesus, received the cross, and embracing the cross, and with all tenderness of his love, he placed it on his shoulders to carry it to Calvary. That was one of the things that I saw in Mel Gibson's movie. There's no place in Scripture where basically, or the tradition, that Jesus kisses the cross. And only in the hours of the Passion does Jesus kiss the cross. And that was in the movie because that book was sent to him. The other thing is when the cross was put face down, there's no place that was ever happened, only in the hours of the Passion. And when they asked him, why did you do that? He said, well, I just thought that was what happened. That was his response. But Muslims are watching this and being converted. Why? Because it's an anti-Jewish movie. Muslims are watching this and being converted to Catholicism, to Christianity. Because in the book of Quran, there's no word, there's only the word mercy twice in the whole book of Quran. And it says, if you are merciful to the infidel, you will be beheaded. There's no mercy. But what they saw in the Passion of the Christ was the mercy of God. And that's what happens with us. When we read the 24 hours of the Passion, when we participate with Jesus, Mary, and Louisa, we see his mercy for us sinners. Again, you have to watch this. You have to see this. You have to focus on Christ crucified. Volume 23, 11, 6, 27. Then, continuing the following acts of religious, I stopped to receive the cross, and embracing it with all tenderness of his love, he placed it on his shoulders to carry it to Calvary. If you read the MMP, Mary Moved a Priest, Our Lady keeps on saying, I'm taking you up to Calvary. This is where you have to go. You have to be crucified with Christ. Now, when people see this, they become terrified. But again, your human will has to be crucified. No more worry, no more fear, no more anxiety, no more complaints, no more negativity, no more sin. It's crucified with Christ. Volumes 36, 4, 20, 38. My flight in the divine will continues, and I feel the need to make all that it has done my own, placing there my little love, my little kisses, my deep adoration, my thank you for everything it did, everything it suffered for me and for everyone. As I reached the point at which my dear Jesus was crucified, lifted on the cross in atrocious agonies and unspeakable pains, with heartbreaking tenderness and compassion, he told me, my good daughter, Louisa, the pain that most transfixed me on the cross was my ardent thirst. I felt I was burning alive since all the vital humors had gone out through my wounds, which were burning and wanting to quench like many mouths their terrible thirst. So he says after this, he says, but my thirst was for souls. He wants everybody in heaven. Volume 21, 3, 26, 27. My Jesus, as my I love you, I followed you into limbo, investing all the inhabitants of that place, and having asked you all together to hasten the coming of the kingdom of your supreme fiat upon earth. So I do want to impress my continuous I love you upon the tomb of your resurrection, so that just as your divine will made your most holy humanity rise again in the fulfillment and the redemption and of the new contact, that you restore the kingdom of your divine will on earth, in the same way, with my incessant I love you, following all the acts you did in redemption, I ask you, I pray you, I plead with you, I supplicate you to make souls rise again in your divine will, so that your kingdom may be established in the midst of souls. So this is what we want. We want Jesus to be Lord, to be King, to be Master, to be Savior. We want him to rule. We want him to reign. Look at our families. Look at our neighborhood. Look at our schools. Look at our churches. Look at the government. Everything is falling apart. May your kingdom come. May your will be done. Volume 36, 4, 20, 38. I continue my round and all of the Lord did on earth, and I stopped at the act of resurrection. What triumph, what glory. Heaven poured itself on earth to be spectator of such a great glory. 5:34, 5:20, 36. After this, I was accompanying the ascension of Jesus into heaven, and how beautiful Jesus was, all majesty, dressed in the most resplendent light, enraptured and enhanced hearts to love him. I mean, these are the mysteries, to be there with Jesus. After this, I was thinking about and accompanying Mary, the sovereign queen, when she was assumed into heaven. To be with Jesus and Mary is what the divine will is all about. So we'll end there, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. By the Sacred Heart of Jesus and the Immaculate Heart of Mary, one with Louisa, the little daughter of the divine will, I enter into the holy divine will. Come, divine will, come beat in my every heartbeat, come breathe in my every breath, come pray, adore, and reign in me. In the name of everyone and everything, past, present, and future. In, with, through, and for Jesus, Mary, and Louisa. In, with, and for all, that all may be for the glory of God and the good of all souls, giving to God as if all lived in the most holy divine will, united with creation, redemption, and sanctification, praying as one in that one eternal act, for the kingdom to come, reign on earth. Fiat.